Kendall Scudder, chairman of the Texas Democratic Party, thank you so much, and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Thanks so much for having me. I sure appreciate it, Jack.
You bet. So let's talk about your party, the Democratic Party of Texas, and the Texas Majority PAC, which is funded by George Soros, are teaming up to form what you're calling Blue Texas. So, what is the purpose of this, and what are your goals?
Well, look, as the new chairman of the party, I've made a lot of promises, and amongst those promises are that we are building a grassroots apparatus in every corner of this state. No more neglecting areas that are, outside of major metros. We're going to show up in communities. We're going to shake people's hands, look them in the eye, tell them what we stand for, and ask for their votes. And that's a lot of what this partnership is. It's about broadening what we're doing around the state of Texas and bringing in the resources to be able to accomplish that.
Is 2026, which you're gearing up for, just like 2018 all over again in your estimation?
I think it may be better. Um,
Why?
well, heck, winning a U.S. Senate seat in 2018 sure would have been better, right? Um, I think that we have that opportunity in this upcoming cycle. I think not only do we have this U.S. Senate seat that everybody seems to be talking about as the sexy topic, we have a gubernatorial race up. When a governor pushed as his pet project in favor of his East Coast sugar daddies to defund our community public schools and to give coupons to rich people to send their kids to fancy private schools on all of our backs, you have a lieutenant governor who is prioritizing eliminating THC products in the state of Texas, which no one's asking for. Just keep going down the ballot. And what you'll see is what's culminating into what could be the best year that Democrats have seen in Texas since the 90s.
Let me ask you just about, first on the U.S. Senate level, and if obviously all these elections, not all of them, but many of them come down to how the economy is doing. If the economy is chugging along, does that hurt your effort? Does that blunt your effort to try to gain some of these seats for the first time in more than 3 decades?
Let's make very clear in just 3 months, Donald Trump tanked the American economy. He pushed the largest increase in taxes on working class people in my lifetime with these tariffs that he's on again, off again, on again, off again, and providing complete instability in our economy. And he also just passed the big, beautiful bill. As he calls it, I call it the billionaire bootlicking bill because it passes giant tax breaks to the people at the top. And for the first time in American history, the richest people at the top will pay a lower tax rate than the people at the bottom. They'll have harder time accessing healthcare. It'll increase their insurance costs. It will increase their energy costs. I think that what you're going to see is an American public that has had enough of the handouts to billionaires at the expense of working class people like us. So I don't think that what you're talking about is going to be an issue. The damage has been done, and it will continue to be done over the next 18 months because Donald Trump is there for one reason, and it's to help people that have memberships at Mar-a-Lago. And if you don't have a membership at Mar-a-Lago, then you need not apply for any assistance or help from this administration. That is not going to stop just because this, billionaire bootlicking bill is passed.
I mean, according to the Consumer Price Index, we have not seen, as of May 2025, the most recent statistics that we've had, we have not seen the tariffs impact prices. Prices have gone down as well. Inflation has gone down. The last number I saw was the prices went up 0.1% from the month before. So we haven't seen that impact yet on the tariffs. Everybody's waiting to see what happens. So gas prices are down, and I'm just wondering, given all that, is it too early to say the tariffs have had a negative impact? Certainly, it's added uncertainty to the business climate, but we haven't seen the price increases yet.
With all due respect, Jack, you sound a lot like the Democrats during the last election cycle, where they were spouting lots of statistics trying to show you why the economy was great. But people on the ground are not feeling those statistics that people are shouting. They are seeing things at their grocery stores more expensive. They are seeing the ability to purchase a car being more expensive. They are seeing their cost of living rising. They're seeing it harder for them to feed their families, harder to go to a doctor when they're sick, harder to make sure that the basic tenets of their life are being met. So, folks can quote whatever stats they want to. A lot of those stats can get twisted in a bunch of different ways. What we as a party are going to be doing is talking to people about what they are feeling on the ground, in their lives, in their homes, because people in DC don't understand what people in Texas are going through. And those folks in their ivory towers in Austin don't understand it either. My family out in East Texas, we're struggling. And it's not just mine. It's a lot of families across the state of Texas because we have a government that's more interested in handing out money to billionaires in hopes that it trickles down instead of trying to make sure we're making life easier for folks. Well, trickle down economics ain't nothing but a trick, and everybody knows it. You know it, I know it, the Republicans know it, and the people who have been impacted by it for the last few decades know it.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying Democrats are not going to make the same mistake as they did in 2024.
Uh,
As
that is
far as,
correct.
okay.
And that was my promise whenever I ran for chair of the party, and I intend to keep it. We're not talking about these far-fledged ideas that people don't relate to. We're talking about what impacts you in your home every single day and what we can do to make your life better.
And so what are you doing to try to galvanize the Democrats and perhaps, attract independents?
Well, I have now done 100 days as chairman, and I have done events in 45 counties around the state of Texas. And we're pulling big crowds sometimes, and sometimes we're not. I've really enjoyed showing up places where they have never seen a state chairman for the Democratic Party, and a lot of places where they don't have Democratic elected officials. Doesn't mean there aren't Democrats out there. They're working their butts off. They're getting out every single day, getting out of bed, eating glass, trying to make life better for people. And when we don't show up in communities, the Republicans are able to define us instead of us define who we are. And so that's number one is I've been showing up. And we intend to continue doing that, sending our best Texas surrogates all across the state in communities that have felt forgotten. Number two is we're building the apparatus of our party. We've had half of our precinct chairs vacant, 20% of our county chairs vacant. That's ridiculous. It's derelict. We cannot continue to operate in this world where we think that locking a bunch of people in a room in Austin and begging for money is going to win us some elections. You can't put a sack of flour in the oven and expect it to make biscuits. There's a lot of work you have to do in the middle to get there, and that's building this apparatus. And then number three, just as you mentioned at the top of this show, is coordinating with all of our partners, particularly ones that are bringing in large levels of resources to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and that we're maximizing to the best of our ability. What you'll notice in Blue Texas is that we have events all across the state. We have them in the Panhandle, we have them in Paris, Texas, we have them in Beaumont, we have them down in South Texas. That's because we are leaving no stone unturned. And if things don't go our way in the next election, it is not because they had a lazy chairman, and it's not going to be because we did not do things differently and rethink this process from the ground up. I think that what we are doing is going to be hugely impactful. We'll just have to wait and see.
You spoke before about the Republicans defining the Democrats. I noticed in some of the comments after the launch of Blue Texas that, here they go again with, backing from George Soros. So what do you say to that? And is that a concern at all to you?
I am not going to let a bunch of dudes with a bunch of sugar daddies in West Texas and on the East Coast start lecturing us about having resources coming into the state to help. Okay. Literally, Yass bought school vouchers for the state of Texas for $13 million, and Greg Abbott just sold it to him because he was the highest bidder. So no one gets to sit here and act like the Democrats getting some kind of reinforcement is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Voters are going to be able to see Democrats in parts of the state where they haven't before and be able to make educated decisions. That's bad news for Republicans because I'll remind people that 30 years ago, when the Democrats were leading the state, your taxes were lower, your communities were safer, your bridges and roads were better, your schools were amongst the best on the globe. How's that going for you? You feel like things are better for you now after 30 years of Republican leadership? I don't think you do. And so the Democrats having the resources to show up and around the state and talk about what our visions are, what we're going to do to try to make life better for people, and particularly to make sure that people see the impacts of what Republicans are doing, like this billionaire bootlicking bill that is going to shut down 300 rural hospitals in this country, many of which are in Texas, denying people in far flung parts of the state from getting access to health care. We're going to show up, and now we have the resources to do that. Get over it.
So let me ask you, because you brought up the point about Democrats showing up in all 254 counties. I know that's something that then Congressman Beto O'Rourke did in his 2018 campaign. And after that, there was some discussion among Democrats that, is showing up in 254 counties across the state which are mostly Republican better, or is it better to really turn out the blue counties in the larger areas, the Dallases, the Houstons, the Austins, the San Antonios, heck, even Fort Worth? Is it better to focus on those areas and bring out people? Because we've seen in the last several election cycles, many Democrats stay at home.
You've got to do both. And I don't understand why people think that the Democrats can't do both. We're a party of big, bold, progressive ideas. My granddaddy was born alone into a wash bucket on a farm that had no electricity, but for Franklin Roosevelt, Sam Rayburn, the New Deal, and the Democratic Party. He walked to schools that were mandated for him to attend them by Democrats on cattle paths, alternating days where he would share a pair of boots with his brothers. And then when the droughts hit Texas in '59 and our family lost everything, we depended on big programs from the Great Society, Medicare, Medicaid, enhancements to Social Security to pull us up out of poverty and help us survive. Those are big, bold, progressive ideas that Democrats used to be known for. We are the party that put a man on the moon, and we're a party that gave the last balanced budget that this country ever saw with Texas Democrat Lloyd Bentsen. If we can do those things, surely we can organize in rural and urban places at the same time. It's not rocket science. We can go to urban areas and make sure that we're turning out voters, but we also can show up in communities that have been neglected for a long time. People that used to be our base, people who are like where I'm from out in East Texas that feel completely ignored and forgotten about by a system that prioritizes rich folks and billionaires over them and their lives. I'll remind you that this billionaire bootlicking bill gave people 100% tax deductions on their private jet purchases while taking away health care for people who needed it and SNAP benefits from people who were depending on it to eat food. This is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom. We're going to show up in urban areas and rural areas and mid-sized cities all across this state and make sure that people hear what we stand for and earn their votes, because nobody owes anything to any of us. Everything I've ever gotten in my life I've worked for, and that it's going to include the votes of Texans for our party this cycle.
There's also discussion as to, where candidates campaign as far as the ideological spectrum, in the center, to the far left, in between. What's your take on that?
I mean, I believe that candidates should campaign on what they believe and what they stand for and stop creating focused group solutions that are overly scripted, where a bunch of people in DC tell you what's best to talk about. I think you should talk about what's best for our community and what you genuinely believe. I think that sometimes that means it's going to be further to the left and it may be economically populist. Sometimes it may be people who are in the center, and that's fine. We are a party that has Henry Cuellar and Jasmine Crockett, and we're happy to have every one of them. We're an umbrella party with a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life with a lot of different perspectives. But what our common moral thread is that we're fighting to make life better for working people. We will take on whatever banks or billionaires that we have to make sure that we're flipping the table on behalf of the little guy. That's what our party has always been known for, and it's what we're trying to reinstill here. So, whether that person is on the left end of the spectrum or in their more center, we're happy to have them. You win elections through addition, not subtraction. We're all working together, treating each other with respect to move forward.
So let's talk about the U.S. Senate race and how this is shaping up. On the Democratic side, could be really a very large field. Right now,
Yeah.
you have two candidates who are in the race. Obviously, Colin Allred, the former congressman, just jumped in last week. You have Terry Virts, a retired astronaut and Air Force fighter pilot who jumped in the week before. And now we're waiting to see if former Congressman Beto O'Rourke jumps into the race, current Congressman Joaquin Castro gets into the race, and State Representative James Tallarico of Austin gets into this race. That would be five candidates. What do you make of that situation? And do you think that's really going to help the party, or do you think these candidates should divide and conquer and figure out what races? You've still got the governor. I know Vicki Goodwin is already running in for lieutenant governor, but would you like to see them spread out more?
We're going to have one of the greatest slates that we have seen on the Democratic Party in Texas in decades. I can say that with confidence. I've talked to a lot of people that are talking about running, and they are very impressive people. We have an embarrassment of riches in our party when it comes to candidates. I say, why stop at five? I think we'll have other candidates that'll jump in, and that's just fine. Um, if heavily contested primaries lost you elections, Republicans would have been losing elections for the last 20 years in Texas. Okay. It's just not the case. I think it's great when Democrats spend money reaching out to other Democrats to encourage them to vote and encourage them to show up, particularly when we lost a fifth of our voters from 2020 to 2024 and they stopped showing up. Heavily contested primaries are very healthy and good for our party as long as everyone is treating everyone with respect, which is the hill that I'm here to die on. As a party, we don't pick sides in primaries. I love all my Democrats equally, but we are to treat everyone with respect in our party as we move forward. That's how you build a governing coalition. That's how you build a winning team. And that's what I intend to do and the tone that I intend to enforce. I think every single one of those names that you mentioned are awesome, and Texans would be so lucky to have them in the positions that they would run for.
You've told these potential candidates and candidates in no uncertain terms, don't trash each other.
Oh, I tell everyone that all the time. I don't know if you've had chances to catch me on the trail, but I don't speak ill of other Democrats. They're all trying to get good things accomplished for our communities. We just may all go about them in different ways. Good intentions should mandate good reception. So yes, every one of them that I will talk to, I will tell them, please make sure you're treating each other with respect because we are on a team. And when this primary is over, we are moving in the same direction with a goal of giving the government back to the working people of this state and taking it away from the billionaire class who have used our government as a way to monetize it for themselves and to put our tax dollars in their own pockets instead of making sure that they're working for people who need it.
And I know there's been a lot of discussion. I think you and I spoke about it the last time around we spoke about why the Democrats are very excited about the potential in the US Senate race if, in fact, Attorney General Ken Paxton becomes the Republican nominee. He has a big lead in the early Republican primary polls ahead of the incumbent Senator John Cornyn. And a lot of people say he's got a lot of baggage and that the Democrats may have an in on that. And I'm wondering, A, would you agree with that? And B, if Paxton is not the nominee and Cornyn is, or there's somebody else, does that take some of the wind out of the Democrats' sails?
Man, I'd really hate to be John Cornyn right now because, whether you win that primary or not, which he won't, you're going to come out bloody and bruised and have to fight Democrats and stand up on your track record. All of those things that I have talked about in this interview are things that John Cornyn has voted for. And he should have to answer to the electorate for having voted for those things. So, I think John Cornyn's in bad shape either way. Regardless, what I'm here to do is not to necessarily track down which Republican we're running against. It's to galvanize my Democrats and to make sure that my Democrats know that we're alive and well here in Texas. We're throwing down, we're showing up, we're fighting back, and we are a party that is worth showing up for. And unfortunately, a lot of people in our party haven't always felt that way. We saw that in the 2024 election. My lane as the chairman of the Democratic Party is to make sure that Democrats show up and vote. And that's what I intend to do, whether that's Ken Paxton or John Cornyn. It's going to be Ken Paxton.
And my last question to your point that you just made, how is it that you get people, they show up at, rallies, et cetera, they help fundraise, et cetera. How do you get people to get to the polls?
Yeah, you got to give people something worth showing up for. And I just don't think that providing this vision of, you know, Liz Cheney meeting everybody in the middle and negotiating away the things that are important to everybody is the path forward. And so we've been very loud and proud about who we are and what we stand for as a party. We're willing to take on whoever we have to make sure we're delivering results for working people. And they deserve that advocate because they damn sure don't have it now. And I think that we need to build a party where every voter in this state knows exactly what they're getting when they vote for a Democrat. And that is an unapologetic warrior and champion for the working class in this state. And that's how I think you start to get people to show up and feel comfortable with this. You don't have to agree with us on everything that we do and everything we stand for. I can't think of a single person that I agree with on 100% of issues, except maybe my wife, because I don't like sleeping on the couch. Okay. But what I'll say is that our moral thread of who we are and what we stand for is that we do what we do on behalf of the working people of the state who have been shut down and shut out of this government. And the government we see right now are doing everything they can to dole out giant piles of cash to rich people and to Mar-a-Lago members and to leave all of us shut out while we're left struggling to pay for groceries, struggling to put gas in our car, to put soccer cleats on our kiddos. I think that this system needs to be disrupted. And I think that you get that when you elect Democrats that are unapologetic fighters for the working class.
Texas Democratic Party Chairman Kendall Scudder, thank you so much. We appreciate
Jack,
it.
thanks for having me. I sure appreciate it.
Appreciate it.